Afghanistan is a diverse landlocked country in the heart of South Central Asia. It's located along important trade routes connecting Asia to Europe and the Middle East. Many powerful empires have tried to conquer it, leaving behind ruins of their attempts. The country's tough deserts and mountains have stopped these conquests, and its independent people have resisted outsiders. Despite this, Afghanistan hasn't become a united nation. It remains a mix of different ethnic groups and changing alliances. In the late 19th century, the borders of modern Afghanistan were set during a competition between Britain and Russia, called the Great Game by Rudyard Kipling. Afghanistan became a battleground for different ideas and power struggles. In the latter half of the 20th century, the country faced terrible civil wars, worsened by a military invasion by the Soviet Union from 1979 to 1989. Afterward, there were fights between different groups until the Taliban, a strict religious group, took control from 1996 to 2001. They were influenced by well-funded Islamists, including Osama bin Laden. In 2001, the Taliban's rule ended due to a strong effort by the United States and its allies. After that, there was a period of change leading to a new constitution and a government chosen by the people. Kabul, the biggest city in Afghanistan, is also its capital. In the past, it was a peaceful place with mosques and gardens, especially during Emperor Babur's time from 1526 to 1530. Kabul was an important trading center on the Silk Road for many years. However, after the long and violent Afghan war, Kabul and the entire country were badly damaged. The war left the economy in ruins, and people were scattered and sad. As the 21st century began, a whole generation of Afghans grew up in a time of constant war, without knowing any other way of life. The most important part is the huge Hindu Kush mountain range, dividing the country into three regions: the Central Highlands, the Northern Plains, and the Southwestern Plateau. The Hindu Kush branches out into different ranges like Baba, Bayan, Safed Ku, Paropamasas, and others. These create smaller mountains like the Turkestan Mountains that stretch to the northwest. There are more ranges such as Siaku in the south and Hesar Mountains in the north. Other ranges like Malmand and Thagbad go southwest. Towards the eastern border with Pakistan, mountains stop moist winds from the Indian Ocean, making the climate dry in Afghanistan. Afghanistan generally has very cold winters and hot summers, typical of a semi-arid climate. However, different regions experience varying weather. Northeastern mountain areas have extremely cold, dry winters. Mountains near Pakistan get rain from July to September due to Indian monsoons, bringing humidity. In summer, the southwest face strong winds daily. Altitude affects local weather. Winter and early spring see cold air from the north and Atlantic lows from the northwest, causing snow in high areas and rain in lower regions. When it comes to rain, the mountainous regions in the east get about 16 inches, 400 millimeters, of rainfall yearly. The Salan Pass in the Hindu Kush Mountains gets the most rain, with 53 inches, 1,350 millimeters, annually. However, the western area of Farah is very dry, receiving only 3 inches, 75 millimeters, of rain each year. Most of the rain and snow falls between December and April. In summer, it's hot and dry everywhere except in the monsoon region. A proper national population count hasn't been done in Afghanistan since 1979 due to years of war and people moving around. Because of this, it's hard to know the exact numbers of different ethnic groups. Estimates suggest that Pashtuns make up about 40% of the population. The two main Pashtun groups are Durrani and Ghilzai. Taiks are around 25%, while Hazara and Uzbeks are about 10% each. Other smaller groups like Chahar Amaks and Turkmen make up smaller parts of the population. Afghanistan is divided by the Hindu Kush Mountains into northern and southern regions, each with its own characteristics. In the north, the eastern part mainly has mountains and plateaus where Taiks live, working as farmers and artisans. Some Kyrgyz communities in the far northeast focus on herding. In the flat western areas, Uzbeks and Turkmen, who are farmers and herders respectively, are the major groups. Southern Afghanistan is split into four regions: Kabul, Kandahar, Herat, and Hazarajat. Kabul area has Pashtun communities along with Taiks and Nuristani in the north and east. Kandahar, in the south, is sparsely populated with Pashtuns, Balochi, and Brahui people. Herat area has a mix of Taiks, Pashtuns, and Chahar Amak. Hazarajat, in central Afghanistan, is mostly home to Hazara people, though many have moved due to limited land, making it one of the most isolated parts of Afghanistan. The term Afghan has been used for a long time, with references dating back to ancient times. Muslims mentioned Afghans around 982 CE, but similar communities have lived there for generations. Afghanistan has been a hub where different cultures and regions meet, including the Middle East, Central Asia, South Asia, and East Asia, shaping its diverse heritage. People have lived in Afghanistan for a really long time, maybe since 100,000 years ago. They found old things in caves in places like the Ra-Ikar, showing people lived there 30,000 years ago. About 9,000 to 6,000 years ago, people started farming near Akkuprat. After World War II, they found old things from the time of the Indus civilization. Afghanistan used to trade with places like Mesopotamia and Egypt, mainly sending lapis lazuli. They also found signs connecting Afghanistan to the Indus civilization near the Amu Darya river. Around 2,600 years ago, a king named Cyrus II, also known as Cyrus the Great, ruled over parts of Afghanistan. Later, a ruler named Darius I divided the region into different areas, such as Arya, modern Herat, and Bactria, Balkh. Then, Alexander the Great came and took control of these areas, establishing Greek cities like Iconium. However, in 130 BCE, nomads attacked, ending the Greek presence. After Alexander, different dynasties ruled parts of Afghanistan. In the south, close to India, the Mauryan dynasty took over. Around 250 BCE, a local governor declared independence. Greeks also moved south, establishing rule in places like Kabul. Meanwhile, the Parthians from eastern Iran took control of regions like Sistan and Kandahar. This history shows how various rulers and dynasties shaped ancient Afghanistan. Around 135 BCE, a group of nomadic tribes called the Uashi took control of Bactria from the Greeks. They united as Kushan and extended their rule into Afghanistan. During King Kanishka's time in the 2nd century CE, Kushan territory stretched from India to China. The Kushans supported art and religion, and Afghanistan was a vital part of the Silk Road, connecting Rome, India, and China. This spread Buddhism to China and led to the carving of Buddha statues in Bamiyan. Important cultural artifacts were found in places like Bagram and Delbajan, highlighting Afghanistan's rich heritage and its historical role in trade and culture. After King Kanishka, the Kushan Empire weakened. Persian Sassanids took control of parts of Afghanistan in 241 CE. In 400 CE, Hephthalites, nomads from Central Asia, briefly ruled but were defeated in 565 CE by a coalition of Sassanids and Western Turks. From the 5th to the 7th century, Chinese Buddhist pilgrims, including Shanzang, visited Afghanistan. Important places he visited, like Hadar, Ghazna, Kondoz, Bamiyan, Shotarak, and Bagram, have been discovered through excavations. Under the Hephthalites and Sassanids, Hinduism influenced many Afghan regions. The Shahi family of Hindu kings lived in Kabul and Ghazni. Archaeological sites, including a Hindu temple near Kabul and a chapel in Ghazni with Buddhist and Hindu statues, reveal the mix of these religions during that time. In 642, Islamic armies won a battle in Iran and entered Afghanistan. They faced challenges in maintaining control, cities rebelled, and people returned to their old beliefs after the armies left. In the 9th and 10th centuries, local Islamic dynasties rose. The Tahirids ruled Balkh and Herat independently from the Abbasid Caliphate in 820. Later, the Saffarids from Sistan took over in 867 to 869. Northern princes became subjects of the powerful Samanids, who ruled Bukhara, Samarkand, and Balkh from 872 to 999, marking a prosperous period. In the 10th century, a man named Alptigam, who was once a slave, took control of Ghazna. After him, another former slave, Sabaktigam, expanded their territory to Kabul and the Indus region. Sabaktigam's son, Mahmud of Ghazna, conquered Punjab, Multan, and parts of India, turning Ghazna and its second capital, Bust, Lashkar Gah, into magnificent cities. Mahmud's family ruled until 1150 when Ala al-Din Hussein of Ghur captured Ghazna. His nephew, Muiz al-Din Muhammad, invaded India in 1175. After Muhammad's death in 1206, his general, Qutb al-Din Aibak, became the Sultan of Delhi. After Muhammad of Ghur's death, the Ghurid Empire fell apart. Afghanistan was then taken over by Sultan Ala al-Din Muhammad, the Khwarezm Shah, whose kingdom stretched from Chinese Turkestan in the east to the borders of Iraq in the west. In 1219, Genghis Khan attacked the eastern part of Ala al-Din's empire. Ala al-Din retreated to an island in the Caspian Sea and died in 1220. After his death, his son Jalal al-Din Mingbanu led Afghan forces to defeat the Mongols near Kabul. Seeking revenge, Genghis Khan destroyed Bamiyan after a fierce battle. He then defeated Jalal al-Din near Ghazna, who retreated towards the Indus in 1221, making a final but unsuccessful stand. After Genghis Khan's time, Afghanistan broke into smaller regions. Some accepted Mongol rule. Later, Timur brought peace. In the 16th century, Turkic Uzbeks, led by Muhammad Shaibani, took charge. Babur, a descendant of Genghis Khan, founded the Mughal Empire in 1526, including parts of eastern Afghanistan. This led to disputes over Kandahar. In 1709, Mir Wais Khan, a leader of the Hotaki Ghilzai tribe, rebelled against Ghojan Khan, the Persian governor of Kandahar, and succeeded in gaining independence. Mir Wais Khan ruled Kandahar until he passed away in 1715. Inspired by his rebellion, the Abdalis of Herat, led by Asad Allah Khan, freed their province from Persians in 1716. Mir Wais's son, Mahmud, expanded their territory, capturing Esfahan in 1722. After Mahmud's death in 1725, Ashraf faced threats from Russia and the Ottoman Turks. He managed to stop these attacks but was later defeated by Nader Kli Beg in 1729, leading to their retreat from Persia. Ashraf was assassinated during the retreat, likely on orders from his cousin. Nader Kli Beg captured Herat in 1732 and became the Shah of Persia in 1736. In 1738, he took over Kandahar after a year-long siege and also seized Ghazna, Kabul, and Delhi in 1739, gaining valuable treasures. He was assassinated in 1747, leading to the decline of his empire and the rise of the last significant Afghan empire. Ahmad Khan Abdali, also called Ahmad Shah Durrani, expanded Afghan rule from Meshed to Delhi and the Arabian Sea, creating a large Muslim empire. His son, Timur Shah, dealt with rebellious tribal leaders and moved the capital from Kandahar to Kabul in 1776. After Timur's death in 1793, his son Zaman was removed from power by his brother Mahmud, aided by Persia and the British. Mahmud took control of Kandahar and Kabul, imprisoning Zaman in 1800. This led to the empire's decline, starting in 1798 when Zaman appointed Sikh governor Ranjit Singh in Lahore. Shah Mahmud left government matters to Fath Khan. Unhappy leaders invited Shah Shuja to Kabul. He took control in 1803 but faced internal issues and threats from Sikhs and Persians. Worried about a possible invasion by Napoleon I in Russia, a British team led by Mount Stuart Elphinstone talked to Shuja. They made a treaty in 1809 to oppose foreign troops. Later, Kabul was captured, and Shuja had to flee to India in 1815. In 1818, Dost Muhammad captured Peshawar and Kabul, pushing Shah Mahmud and Kamran away except for Herat. Bukhara's ruler took Balkh, Sikhs took Afghan territories, and Sindh and Baluchistan became independent. Dost Muhammad established the Barakse dynasty. His attempt to reclaim Peshawar failed in 1836. Persia besieged Herat in 1837, leading to British involvement. A failed British mission and invasion in 1839 resulted in chaos. Dost Muhammad briefly escaped imprisonment but returned to lead, eventually regaining control of Kabul and expanding Afghan territories before his death in 1863. Sher Ali Khan became emir, but his brothers took over in 1866. He regained power in 1868. Tensions with Russia and refusal to meet British terms led to the 1878–80 war. Sher Ali sought Russian help but was told to seek peace. He died in 1879. His son Yaqub Khan was recognized as emir in 1879 under the Treaty of Gandamak. However, in 1879, the British envoy was killed in Kabul. British forces reoccupied the city. Yaqub abdicated and went into exile in India, where he died in 1923. The British left Kandahar in April 1881. In 1880, Abd al-Rahman Khan declared himself Emir of Kabul. During his rule, the boundaries of modern Afghanistan were set by the British and Russians. The Durand Line of 1893 divided responsibilities between British India and Afghanistan. Abd al-Rahman strengthened the central government, and his son Habibullah Khan succeeded him peacefully. Habibullah embraced European technology and ideals, and Afghan nationalism grew. He resisted joining World War I, fearing British power. After the war, he was assassinated in 1919, and his son Amanullah took over. Amanullah led Afghanistan into a war in 1919, gaining control over its foreign affairs. He clashed with conservative leaders due to his progressive reforms, leading to a civil war in 1928. He stepped down, and Nader Khan took over but was assassinated in 1933. His son Zahir Shah became the new king. Afghanistan stayed neutral in World War II. In 1953, Daud Khan took power and strengthened ties with the Soviet Union. In 1964, a new constitution was adopted, but political struggles continued. Daud Khan established the Republic of Afghanistan in 1973. In the late 1970s, Afghanistan went through major political changes under Daud Khan's rule. However, these reforms led to internal unrest. In 1978, a coup resulted in the formation of the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan, sparking a civil war. The situation worsened when the Soviet Union intervened in 1979, supporting the Afghan government against various rebel groups known as the Mujahideen. The Mujahideen received aid from several countries, including the United States, to fight against Soviet forces. This support, channeled through Pakistan, included military training and weapons. The conflict caused immense suffering for the Afghan people, resulting in widespread destruction and displacement. The situation shifted in 1989 when the Soviet Union started pulling its troops out of Afghanistan as part of an agreement. However, internal conflicts among Afghan factions continued, making it hard to establish a stable government. Despite attempts to unite, the Mujahideen stayed divided, preventing the formation of a peaceful and functional state. This prolonged period of conflict left Afghanistan in a state of political and social turmoil. From 1992 to 2001, Afghanistan faced severe instability. After the Soviet Union's collapse, the country's interim government, led by various Mujahideen groups, struggled to bring peace. Internal conflicts and ethnic tensions led to chaos. Kabul suffered damage due to attacks and international aid was crucial. Law and order broke down, with warlords taking control and kidnappings becoming common. In response, the Taliban, led by Mullah Muhammad Omar, emerged in 1994, bringing some stability to areas like Kandahar. Many people supported them initially. With support from some Pakistani officials, the Taliban gained power, controlling most of Afghanistan by 2001. The Northern Alliance, led by Ahmad Shah Massoud, was the only significant opposition. Despite aid efforts, the country remained divided and unstable, setting the stage for future events. After the fall of Kabul, countries like Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates supported the Taliban government. However, the Taliban faced criticism from the world for their mistreatment of women and human rights violations. They refused to hand over Osama bin Laden, which led to sanctions imposed by the UN. The Taliban were accused of sheltering militants planning attacks in neighboring countries. Iran objected to their treatment of Shiite Muslims. Despite worries about radicalism, Pakistan continued to support the Taliban. Fighting persisted, making it difficult to achieve peace and rebuild the country. It was essential to shift from an economy based on illegal activities, like smuggling weapons and drugs, for Afghanistan's recovery and a wave of lasting peace. After the 9/11 attacks, the US and other countries stepped in to help Afghanistan. They removed the Taliban government and organized democratic elections in 2004, where Hamid Karzai became the president. However, violence persisted, and NATO took over military operations in 2006. Despite efforts to stop it, opium production rose, funding groups like the Taliban. In 2009, there was a disputed presidential election, but eventually, Karzai was re-elected. Afghanistan continued to face challenges, with ongoing efforts to bring stability and peace to the region. In 2009, attacks by rebels in Afghanistan increased. US leaders felt they didn't have enough troops for their plan to protect people and rebuild the country. President Obama sent 30,000 more troops, making a total of 150,000 NATO troops in 2010. Even though they pushed back the Taliban from some areas, surprise attacks continued because people didn't like the Afghan government and the Taliban found refuge in Pakistan. By 2014, as the fight reached a standstill and support for the war dropped, NATO decided to pull out its combat troops. Efforts to talk peace with the Taliban faced challenges. Afghanistan also faced problems like corruption and low voter turnout in the 2010 elections. In 2014, Afghanistan held an election to choose a new leader after Karzai's term ended. The election started with violence, but the voting took place in April. Two main candidates, Abdullah Abdullah and Ashraf Ghani, faced off in June. Ghani was initially ahead, but Abdullah claimed fraud, causing a deadlock. Under pressure from the US, an audit was agreed upon in July. On September 21, an agreement was signed. Ghani became president, and Abdullah took on an advisory role. This role had limited power, and changes in the constitution were needed to make it official. During Ghani's time as president, challenges arose after NATO ended its combat mission in 2014. US troops stayed to train Afghan forces and fight terrorism. The Taliban's comeback caused problems, leading Ghani to seek peace talks in 2015. Despite efforts, the Taliban continued to pose a threat. Before the 2018 elections, the Taliban tried to disrupt them, urging people to boycott and causing violence. Despite these challenges, most of the country voted. Kabul faced voting issues, but the high turnout suggested the elections were legitimate. The Election Commission faced criticism and was replaced before the final results were announced in May 2019. In late 2018, efforts to negotiate peace in Afghanistan were reignited when the United States, along with Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, engaged in talks with the Taliban. Simultaneously, the US announced plans to withdraw its troops from Afghanistan, a move signaling its commitment to finding a peaceful resolution. Despite challenges, discussions with the Taliban persisted into 2019. Meanwhile, the planned presidential election, initially scheduled for April, faced delays due to security concerns. When the election finally took place in September, voter turnout was disappointingly low, reflecting the lack of confidence in the electoral process. Ashraf Ghani emerged as the winner, securing more than 50% of the votes. However, this victory led to negotiations and a power-sharing agreement with Abdullah, who had contested the results. This agreement, reached in May 2020, aimed to establish stability amidst the complex political landscape of Afghanistan. In February 2020, the United States and the Taliban made a deal. Would pull its troops out of Afghanistan over 14 months if the Taliban agreed to peace talks with the Afghan government and stopped Al-Qaeda and ISIS from operating in Afghanistan. The agreement was signed on February 29, 2020. However, peace talks between the Taliban and the Afghan government didn't progress much. As the Taliban gained more control, the government's forces couldn't coordinate well and didn't respond effectively to the insurgency. By mid-August, the Taliban had taken over most of Afghanistan, including Kabul.
Your support means a lot to us. If you enjoy this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really encourages us to make more videos like this.